What's going on, everybody? In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at Sega Genesis shooters. I've chosen 10 games from that gigantic library, and I definitely want to make this a series where I try and cover all of them in the end. So, let's not waste any time, let's get to Sega Genesis shoot 'em ups. Thunderforce 2 was released in mid-1998 by Technosoft, and is one of the system's earliest examples of the genre. This port of the Sharp X68000 version, released the previous year, would feature a mix of top-down multi-directional stages as well as side-scrolling horizontal stages. I have to admit that I found the overhead stages a bit tough to stomach at first. They are hard, and the first time you play, you have no idea what the hell to do. After realizing that I had to destroy the 4 enemy bases, I decided to cover small areas as I moved and explored slowly, making these stages far easier to navigate. The side-scrolling stages offered up a much more palatable experience on first inspection, even giving you a traditional end-level boss to boot. Thunderforce 2 won't win any awards for its graphics, as there aren't any crazy parallax effects later entries would become known for. Luckily, the music here is excellent for the most part, with a number of solid tunes that drive each stage's gameplay for the entire duration. Thunderforce 2 is also an inexpensive game, often going for under $30 complete in box. Later entries would marginalize this one quite a bit, but Thunderforce 2 still has a place in the pantheon of Genesis shooters and is well worth its asking price. Released in Japan and Korea only in mid-1993 by Soft Vision International, the Mega Drive would get one of my favorite shooters on the system, Eliminate Down. This ultra-rare and extremely expensive game is a treat for shooter fans, and offers an extremely pleasing presentation in just about every single category. The graphics offer up some great backgrounds and effects, and the action never slows down. The music is a mix of fast and slow tempos that do the system proud, and a number of these tunes are definitely worth listening to while you mow the grass. The gameplay is solid as well, offering you a trio of weapons that can be upgraded multiple times to increase their killing efficiency. These weapons also give you the strategic advantage of attacking forward, backwards, and sideways at your discretion, adding a ton of depth. You'll need to look into alternative means to playing this one, as it's way out of reach of the average gamer. Reproductions, emulation, or flash carts will be the way most of you will want to play it. For what it's worth, there are some very good quality repros on eBay going for around $20. Late 1990 would bring about the Compile-developed Musha for North America and Japan. Often considered one of the machine's best shooters, you take control of a giant flying mech in an effort to stop an ultra-intelligent supercomputer and avenge your fallen teammates. I am in the very small minority that does not hold Musha among the elite shooters for the system. Its graphical presentation does nothing for me, and there are a dozen other shooters on the Genesis that look better in my opinion. Many of the stages lack background detail, and often are just plain patterns with little animation. The soundtrack is pretty solid, however, and has a number of standout moments in the game. Gameplay has a number of commendable features as well, including controllable drones, main weapon power-ups, special weapon power-ups, all giving you multiple strategies to approach each stage. Musha also is an extremely challenging game, giving it great replay value. Don't let my opinion of the game sway you. Many consider this among the system's best games, and I think it's a pretty damn good game myself. I just would rather play a number of other games in the genre as my first choice. Early 1992 would bring Steel Empire, developed by Hot B and published by Flying Edge, a division of Acclaim. This alternate history game has the world using steam-powered flying machines, and you must stop the evil Motorhead Empire from trying to destroy you and your allies. Presented in a film projector-like manner in its opening sequence, I am quite mixed on Steel Empire's presentation. I appreciate the art style itself, aiming at a steampunk look and feel. The graphics are quite simple, however. There isn't a ton of detail in the backgrounds or sprites, and everything has an overly small feel to them. The music is catchy and there are quite a few upbeat tracks that sound good, but the composition lacks overall consistency. The gameplay holds up well, however, with a number of features that should be standard in shooters, like full control of the direction of your fire and a level up system that retains your power-ups once reached. Far too many shooters reset you to 0 at times of extreme difficulty, often resulting in me starting the game over anyway. All in all, Steel Empire is a decent game with a number of strong additions, but its overall presentation takes it down a few notches. It's pretty cheap among the other entries in the genre, so if you think you'll enjoy it, it's relatively easy to obtain. The NCS Corp developed Gainog, or Janugi, or about a dozen other pronunciations I've heard over the years, was released in early 1991. It was known simply as Wings of War in North America, and tasks you as an angel of the heavens in a bid to save your lands from a powerful foe. I'm quite the pushover for parallax scrolling and other effects that give the background depth, and this game here offers up a good balance of screen-filling goodies to impress me overall. The sprites are a little on the small side, with your bullets being almost as large as many of the enemies. The music is a mixed bag of good tempos and rhythm, with moments of sharp offbeat instruments. It's overall enjoyable, but has moments where you are wondering just what the hell the composers were actually thinking. The gameplay is quite decent all the way around though. Aside from your normal shots and various power-ups, you also have a magic system that allows you to use more damaging attacks and even defensive spells that protect you. Wings of War isn't an upper echelon game for the Genesis, but what's here is an above average shooter that's worth its roughly $50–$60 asking price to obtain. Another Japanese and Korean exclusive, the awesomely named Advanced Buster Hawk Glai Lancer, was developed by NCS Corp and released in mid-1992 by Messiah. I'm a big fan of this game, and it appealed to me in just about every single way. I absolutely loved its presentation. Your eyes are instantly assaulted with loads of multi-layered scrolling and background detail. So much so that they are almost distracting at first. You then get the full audio blowout with some of the best shooter tunes the Genesis has ever produced. Nearly every one of its soundtrack are grade A quality and drives the gameplay on with emotional boosts that every single shooter should have. And speaking of gameplay, Glai Lancer is one smooth playing game. You start by setting your satellites to your liking in the very beginning, and the power-ups offer various ways to dispatch your foes. Slowdown never rears its ugly head to any meaningful effect, and only a smidge of sprite flicker shows up here and there. Overall, this is a great shooter and one of the system's best in my opinion. Unfortunately, its rarity has driven the game to insane prices, easily eclipsing the $300 mark. There are some very good reproductions out there that have been converted to full English that you can get for a mere $20 though, and I highly advise this route unless you are an extreme collector or have more money than sense. In early 1991, Sunsoft of Japan would license the Fantasy Zone IP from Sega and release a sort of remix of the game in the form of Super Fantasy Zone, also released in Europe the following year. In typical early Sunsoft fashion, this game looks and sounds great, easily surpassing earlier efforts in the Fantasy Zone franchise. Fantasy Zone likely needs little introduction for most of you. You either love this or have absolutely no interest, but to me these games will always hold a special place in my retro gaming library. For you fans, this entry sees the formula of the first game redesigned into an even more colorful and great sounding presentation, and is one of the best simple shooters of its time. Gameplay is multi-directional, where you choose which direction you fly and shoot. The screen wraps around a series of enemy bases that must be destroyed in each level to move on to the stage's boss. There are shops along the way to upgrade your ship's speed, weaponry, and you can even buy lives there. Super Fantasy Zone is definitely on the cuter side of shoot-'em-ups, but its smooth gameplay and impeccable presentation make it a must for fans of the series. Late 1990 would bring about one of the system's first 8MB shooters, Glai, published by Renovation and released only in Japan and North America. Using what the game refers to as the TAS system, you steal enemy ships' weaponry throughout the game. Steal it again to power it up. This provided a fresh take on power-up systems of the day, pretty much allowing you to play each stage how you saw fit. It was also known for its huge bosses and great music, all of which added to a pretty outstanding presentation in those early years of the system. Other games would come out in the following years and be far more impressive visually, but Glai still holds its own with that great soundtrack and timeless power-up system. It also isn't crazy expensive, believe it or not, going complete regularly for under $100. I recommend that you try this one on an emulator or a flash cart to see if you like it first, but I'm confident you'll at least walk away with a pleasant experience. Micronet would publish the Mega Drive port of the arcade classic Raiden under the name Raiden Trad in mid-1991. It would see release in Japan, and then North America and Brazil within the following year. This game has seen a port on damn near every system under the sun. Even the Atari Jaguar and Lynx got ports of it. I've always appreciated the little details in this one. The enemies leave scorch marks on the ground when destroyed, and there are often small animations in the backgrounds that add a lot to the experience. The power-up system here is fairly straightforward and uneventful, but it serves the game's premise well enough. The soundtrack here has a number of great sounding entries, but there are also a few that seem really out of place and are far too slow for a shooter. The overall experience here is solid though, and if you are a fan of the original arcade, this is the closest 16-bit version in overall design. I have also seen it go for as little as $40 complete, so watch those auctions and avoid those ridiculous buy it nows. The Vic Tokai developed Whip Rush would see a Japanese launch in mid-1990 and a North American release a few months later. I have a soft spot for this one, as it was one of the first Japanese shooters I imported on my own. Nothing here is going to blow you away. In fact, it's one of the tamest of the bunch in this episode. It does have some nice color, and a few cool parallax latent stages that add some pizzazz to an otherwise average presentation. The music does have some of that early Mega Drive magic here and there that I always loved. Whip Rush's gameplay is tried and true shooter staples. Options, lasers, and missiles are all the order of the day, with control of your options placement and the ability to take a hit if you are using a power-up being standouts way back then. Whip Rush won't win any awards for sure, but it's a competent, if somewhat underwhelming entry into the genre. It's also affordable and can be gotten complete for under $50. So for this episode, I decided to go ahead and ask some of my friends, what are your favorite shooters on the Sega Genesis? And the range of opinions that I got was amazing. Some people thought that the games that I liked weren't very good. Some of the games that they thought were absolutely awesome, I didn't really think that much of. The diversity in opinion is absolutely amazing in this genre. And remember guys, in the end, that's all these are opinions. I'd love to hear yours down in the comments. I'm Sega Lord X. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you next time.